Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey man, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Bert Kreischer compared Fiji to Arizona. He said Fiji was drier than he expected. I guess I wouldn't expect Fiji to be dry. Bert told the Drop a Pin podcast that although he enjoyed being on a boat, scuba diving, surfing, and catching fish, it felt dry. It didn't live up to expectations. He said when you hear Fiji, you think of jungles, forests, and a more lush place. No, I actually think of being on a boat, scuba diving, surfing, and catching fish. Speaking of being dry, Variety tells us if you see John Mulaney having a beer, don't worry, he has not relapsed. They were talking about his new partnership with Years. That's the alcohol-free beer I told you about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. There's a commercial. We see John Mulaney lounging poolside while recalling a time when his wife Olivia Munn thought he may have been drinking again when she spotted him downing several cans of non-alcoholic Years. However, Mulaney said that never actually happened. She's well aware of my enjoyment of Years non-alcoholic beer, but I have best friends who've been like, I didn't want to say anything, but Mulaney tells us it's sold at Wrigley Field. It's that exact Midwestern Pilsner that I like. Other people make a light non-alcoholic, but most of them taste like a drink trying to taste like one versus just being a Pilsner or a Pale Ale that just isn't fermented. Now, he's joking. He wants to take on Tom Holland to see who is the king of non-alcoholic beers. You see, the Spider-Man star has his own non-alcoholic beer brand, Beero. Mulaney says, it's a cage fight, like a physical fight, like UFC, because, you know, I fought 3 14-year-olds on Everybody's Live. Will he fight Tom Holland? I'd fight 3 14-year-old friends of his. What does John Mulaney love most about being sober? He says, when I go to the doctor and I have problems, we don't have to kind of tiptoe around the minefield. It's like I say, I'm urinating a lot at night. I have some numbness in my left hand. We then don't have to discuss whether it's all the cocaine, Adderall, opioids, or alcohol. They'll take you much more seriously at the doctor. Mulaney says he would like to see Anthony Hopkins in a commercial. I know Anthony Hopkins has something like 65 years of sobriety. I think he'd be a natural. He could play an acting student of mine. He goes, you're such a good actor. You were on The Bear and not many other things. And I go, that's true. And then I say to him, you're getting better, sir. And then I hand him one. From the Indian Times, your home for comedy news, Ricky Gervais shared on social media, I'm working out every day now, tennis, weights, running, etc. My resting heart rate is really good, and I train at quite a high rate too. So my question is, why am I still effing fat and exhausted all the C-word time? Wow, I've never heard the C word used in that way. He used it the way someone like me might use effing time. He said C word time. Interesting. Well, luckily the Indian Times caught up with Dr. Syriac Abby Phillips, who, as you know, is popularly known as the liver doc. The liver doc said, it's the alcohol, Ricky. It's the alcohol, not the food like people claim in the responses. Enjoy your food. Good advice from the liver doc. The New York Times asked Marc Maron about white guy comics with podcasts becoming influential, name-checking Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, and Andrew Schultz, who was just at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Maron said, these guys have proven that their fan bases can be tribalized into something that I think is fundamentally dangerous. Still in the parameters of free speech. You can do whatever you want. And if you want to be used by the dominating propaganda arm of a fascistic momentum against democracy, well, I hope you're happy with your show. The Times asked Maron if he thought his success came too late in life. He started his podcast in his late 40s. Been there, done that. Maron said, no, if you're honest with yourself, I think a lot of times success didn't come because you weren't ready for it. When I auditioned for Saturday Night Live, I wasn't ready for that. By the time the podcast started, I'd let go of the other dreams. When they started to happen, I felt like, okay, I'm ready for it now. I could show up and do the work in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do previously. I'm not mad that my success came when it did. I'm just glad that it came because it would have been a much sadder life if it hadn't. CurrentAffairs.org asked Gianmarco Ceresi, what's it like out there in America now? Gianmarco said, it can be really tough because my shows have a joy that I don't think is in America right now, especially when I'm in the South. I find that's when the audience is, how would I say it, even more visibly queer than in the city. I just did a show in Hattiesburg, and I think in Hattiesburg I was probably the gay hang of the night. Sometimes people say they come alone to the show, and I hope they come alone and leave with someone. It's meet and greet. When I go to my shows, I always tell them, if only the people in this room voted, Jill Stein would have had a shot. That's a great joke. There's a joy there. America itself just feels bleak as F. And I'm starting to accept and understand my role. That's even if I talk about current affairs, there's a degree of escapism. I'm saying, hey, let's go in here for an hour and a half and just laugh at how effed up it is. It is so nice to see people discovering him. He's having a moment right now. He's kind of the it comic right now, which is really great. Gianmarco, how do you take the political temperature of your audience? He said, honestly, one of the benefits, and I think one of the detriments of modern-day comedy is our fan bases are so curated via social media, so in a way, I probably feel a safety at my own shows that will someday bite me in the ass when I forget I'm at someone else's show or just a comedy club, and I'll have to be ready. I just feel like the harder shows were the early years. That's when I'd be in Florida, and I'd look at the men in the audience, and aesthetically, they had copied Trump. They had orange fake tans. They looked like they were on the wait list for Mar-a-Lago. That was more nerve-wracking than it is now, but that'll be the challenge, I think. As you get comfortable in your own space, you expand, you push yourself to be sharper and follow your views to even more biting punchlines. And then do you have the chutzpah to do it when it's on a TV show? Or I guess if you're going to do the Riyadh Comedy Festival, which I wasn't invited to. Phoebe Robinson was on the Last Laugh podcast and took a shot at Rogan, Theo, and others, who she says helped humanize a monster for millions of young male listeners. Phoebe said, the same guys who built platforms on mocking women and minorities are suddenly shocked Trump is doing what he always said he would. You have to live with what you did. You know who you voted for. Own it. Third Coast Review asked Gary Gulman, hey, you have so many bits that you spice up with strategically placed antiquated phrases like ne'er-do-well. Where do you pull those from? Gary said, it's from reading so much. I read more than just about every other comedian. I think I've read 60 books already this year, and I'll probably finish close to 100. And that's been every year that I haven't been sick. I also listen to a lot of books. I had a friend who sadly passed away, but he was very literate. He was an English teacher and a comedian, a high school English teacher, which is really hard. He was so well read. He said something that put words to what I knew intuitively. People love to hear words that they forgot they knew. That's when I realized I had been doing, and I try to continue to do it, but there's a sweet spot. It comes from trial and error. Try this word, you try that word. Sometimes you get to the stage, you're about to say a word, and you think, oh, they're going to groan because it's way too written. So you dial it back. Smart, smart, smart. But if you spend as much time as I do writing out the sentences and switching the words so many times, you remember which word was the second least obnoxious. You go to that. It's a trial and error, but after 30 years, you build up instincts as to what will land and what won't. What will sound too written? I don't want to be the comedian who the audience is silent for. That's painful, but I don't mind if every once in a while a word doesn't land with the audience, because when I do it on TV, it finds people who think, I got to see this guy live because he gets me. I forget who said it. I think it was a British comedian who said, if you could find 1,000 people who go to every show when you're near them and buy every album you put out, you can have a nice career. So if you were one of the newer listeners who jumped on board during Kimmelgate and Riyadh-gate, again, thank you. Welcome on board. I think today is pretty representative of like a normal episode. There's not always a major controversy. And believe me, I love a major controversy. I welcome the next one. But this is kind of like, this is how the show goes on a normal day. So hopefully you're enjoying today. You must be if you're still here, 10 plus minutes. But this is a normal episode. Dr. Demento has wrapped up his radio career. Real name, Barrett Hansen. See, I didn't know that. That would be good trivia. The trivia guys listening? Nah, no one will get that one. You'd have to phrase it like Barrett Hansen, known for his wacky radio show parody songs, is better known by this name. You'd have to go at it that way. I'm telling the trivia guys how to do their show. Hi, trivia guys. Johnny Mac hasn't been at trivia. Very, very busy October. Hoping to get there soon. Anyway, I digress. Dr. Demento wrapped up 55 years on the air. 84 years old. He started on KPPC Pasadena in 1970. The Dr. Demento show was nationally syndicated from 74 to 2010. I have a vague memory of stumbling across that probably around the same time Weird Al caught on. Couldn't tell you what radio station, couldn't tell you when it was actually on or how you'd find it, but I feel like I heard it every now and then. Dr. Demento's final show, aired for 3.5 hours, was a countdown of the most requested show during the 55-year run. Countdown included longtime favorites like Fish Heads, the famous They're Coming to Take Me Away, haha, Shaving Cream, a 1946 recording credited to Benny Bill with Paul Wynn on vocals. I'm familiar with Uncle Floyd used to do that one. That's a fun song. If you don't know that one, let me pull up the lyrics of that one. It's a wonderful example of a naughty song that's not naughty at all. I won't sing for you. I know you're disappointed, but I'll read it in cadence. Lyrics to Shaving Cream. I have a sad story to tell you. It may hurt your feelings a bit. Last night when I walked into my bathroom, I stepped in a big pile of shaving cream. Be nice and clean. Shave every day. You'll always look keen. You see, you get how it gets? So you set up the rhyme of a word that ends in it, and you get to the shaving cream, and you go into the chorus. It's a fun, naughty song. Comedians Joe Wilkinson and David Earl are reuniting for a new show called Joe and David's Magical Sitcom Tour. The aforementioned Ricky Gervais has been confirmed as a guest star. It's a 3-part series airing on U and Gold, blending travelogue, buddy comedy, and retrospective elements. Each excursion is themed around a beloved British sitcom. Expect episodes dedicated to shows like The Office, Porridge, and Fawlty Towers. Ricky Gervais will reflect on The Office. The personal treasures of comedy icon Richard Lewis being auctioned today. The Abel Auction Company will present from the personal collection of Richard Lewis. Some of the things you can bid on include a 2011 photograph of Richard Lewis taken on the set of the Snickers Super Bowl logging commercial. We're told that's a rare treasure. The VP over there at the Abel Auction Company said Richard Lewis not only changed the face of comedy, but also curated a deeply personal collection that reflected his passions and influences. Bidding starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Live online bidding if you want to jump on there. Adam Sandler, a great dramatic actor, does he have any advice to the star of Happy Gilmore 2, Travis Kelce? Travis Kelce recently got engaged to a famous singer. Sandler said, he's all good. He loves her more than anything, just like I love my wife more than anything. That's where they're at, and that's where me and my girl are at. Adam recently told Travis Kelce that anytime Taylor Swift is laughing with you, my whole family is high-fiving. Different Adam, Adam Duritz from Counting Crows, is going to receive the Bob Saget Legacy Award at this year's Cool Comedy Hot Cuisine Benefit Wednesday, November 12th in New York City. Jeff Ross, he's just back from the Riyadh Comedy Festival. He's going to host the event, which will also feature Riyadh Comedy Festival performer Hannibal Buress and some comedians who are not in Riyadh, including Kelsey Cook, Jim Gaffigan, he'll probably try and sell you bourbon, and Nikki Glazer. Also appearing, broadcaster Katie Couric. I don't know why either. And David Letterman talked about that guy, Jay Leno. You know, Jay Leno is always popping off about late night comedy like he knows anything about it. Vulture asked David Letterman, do you speak to Jay Leno at all these days? A lot of time has passed since you were competing against each other for the ratings. Dave said, the last time I spoke to Jay, or maybe we just texted, he said his face had caught fire or something, and it sounded hideous. I mean, of all things that might catch fire, perhaps the last thing you'd want to be is your face. So it was alarming. I think we changed sentiments about good luck and be careful, something like that, but I haven't spoken to him in a long time. We rubbed each other the wrong way. I don't know. I don't have any regrets about our relationship, and I don't think he has any regrets about me either. But God, just really, even at this point in his career, probably still the best. Just tremendous, just hilarious, just nonstop as funny as you're ever going to get. So that's a good thing about Jay. We rubbed each other the wrong way. I don't know. I don't have any regrets about our relationship, and I don't think he has any regrets about me either. But God, he just really, even at this point in his career, probably still the best. Dave also commented on how the current late night guys get along. How did that happen? Because when it was me and Jay, it was the late night wars. There was bloodshed. We hated each other. But now, every day, they have lunch together. I don't get it. Love David Letterman. And that is your comedy news for today. I'll see you tomorrow.